Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. Today is Christmas Eve, and in spite of that, this video will still be a little bit political. You know why? Because I actually ended up remembering one thing I said on Instagram. You should follow me there if you don't, because I post a lot of things there, far more things than I post here. I remember me saying something very interesting, which I will read out to you and I will also show it to you. And actually want to debate what I said, and I will change my opinion. On November 12th, I stated, let me grab my phone on live TV. I stated the following. If women didn't vote, the world would be a better place. So that's the first part. And my explanation for this was the following. Before you all have a meltdown, let me explain the reasoning behind this opinion of mine. It all starts by acknowledging that voting is a rational choice and not an emotional one, and therefore should be made based on competence and rationality. If we take that into consideration, we can then argue that men make rational choices more often than women because they're less emotional and therefore more rational. If that is right, then we agree that men make competence and rationality-based choices more often, which implies that men vote better and more correctly. Last but not least, we all agree that voting for who's in charge of your country is one of the most important choices you can make, and that it has a significant impact on our lives. With all that taken into consideration, we can come to the conclusion that if only men voted, the world would have better leaders who would make the world a better place. So that's an interesting opinion I shared on November 12th. But in today's video, we'll do something rather interesting. I will actually disagree with it. And in the story I posted afterwards, I even said that I might recalibrate, my opinion, my take, and I will talk about it. So precisely 36 days after saying that, no, more than that, precisely 42 days after saying that, I will now talk about what I said. Would the world, that's going to be probably the title of the video, would the world be a better place if women didn't vote? We will come to the answer at the end of the video. So, if you want to find out what I think, go to the end of the video and you will find out what I think. So I'll tell you this. So let's start with the first point I made, that voting is a rational choice. I stand by that wholeheartedly. Voting is something that should be made rationally. I believe in independent voting. I don't believe in voting for a party specifically. I don't consider myself Republican. I don't consider myself Democrat. I don't consider myself right-wing or left-wing. I consider myself a voter. I'm not a voter. I have never voted. I can't vote yet. But I will be the kind of guy who goes through the options and analyzes which one is the best one based on which policies will make the country better. I'm not going to vote because I'm right-wing, and therefore I will always vote for right-wingers. I will not vote because I'm left-wing, and therefore I will always vote for left-wingers. I'm a different type of voter, and that's, I believe, what everybody should do. Be independent. Analyze, go through candidates, plans, and after that, make your choices. That's the way it should be, in my opinion. And I do believe that voting is a rational choice, because you need to be rational. And one of the problems I have with women and the way they vote is that they don't vote rationally sometimes. Also, men don't vote rationally, for the record. I'm not saying that men always vote rationally, because that would be naive. And there is always a chunk of a certain subsect of the population which votes irrationally, regardless of what that subsect of the population is. We can take white males, which have been the most pro-Trump voters, and there is still going to be a large part of those white males who have voted irrationally, or who have voted based on asinine things. I'll make an example. You vote for somebody because you think, if there are two candidates, and candidate A has better policies but is an asshole, and candidate B has worse policies but is actually way more friendly, and if you vote for candidate B, I think that's a vote which has been wasted. Because you need to vote for the guy who's competent. Again, you don't have to vote for a husband or for a wife. You need to vote for the leader of your country and that leader needs to be competent. That leader can be the pettiest person in the world, but if that person is a competent guy, then so be it. So I wholeheartedly and absolutely stand by with the thing I said there. Voting is a rational choice, and I believe also that men are more rational than women on average. On average, men are more rational than women. If we took 100 women and 100 men, out of 100 men, maybe there would be 60 people who are rational and 40 people who are irrational. And on the other hand, with women, it would maybe be 40 people that are rational and 60 people that are irrational. Therefore, women, in my opinion, are less rational than men. I stand by that too, which is a good thing for the record, because I don't want to be called misogynistic in any way, shape, or form. I don't think there is any sort of chance to call me misogynistic in this video. There is, but I don't care. But I don't think it's a bad thing that women are more emotional than men, because that's a superpower, right? Isn't it? So I'm not saying it's a problem, but in regards to voting, it might be. So I believe men are more rational than women. I believe it, frankly. And there is data probably that backs this up, but I'm not talking with data now. But there is certainly data which talks about this, no doubt about it. So as I was saying, men vote more rationally than women do. Most of us, I think, will agree with this. I'm not saying that there aren't women who vote rationally. There sure are. And also another thing which I want to make clear, I'm not saying that voting rationally means voting right-wing. I'm not saying that voting rationally means voting my party or the person I support. I'm not saying that voting for somebody else, I'm not saying that voting for somebody different from the person I vote for is irrational. If I had a conversation with somebody who voted for Kamala and he told me, oh, I voted for her because I think she's got better policies on women's reproductive rights, climate change, and I care about those issues instead of the issues you care about, that would be, I happen to disagree with you, I think you're wrong, but it's fine. I mean, you voted for the candidate you thought was best based upon rationalism and based upon your values and beliefs. That's perfectly fine, no problem. The problem I had, and I talked about this in a video, I said something, I don't know which was the title of the video, but maybe I should play you the clip of the video. But I made 3 very pertinent points. That was the video called Women Shouldn't Vote, which I didn't say, by the way. I didn't say women shouldn't vote, and I think women should vote. But I did criticize the way some women vote. And I stand by those things, by the way. And most women agree with me, by the way. I don't think it's something crazy to say. I said that, women who just vote for abortion for Kamala were wrong. I said that women, acknowledging that Trump would have been better for the economy, immigration, foreign policy, world peace, and all the other things, but wouldn't have allowed babies to be killed when they were on the verge of birth. I said that those people who acknowledged the fact that Trump was better in almost all things, but voted for Kamala just because of abortion, were wrong, in my opinion. They were voting wrongly, based on their own beliefs, not based on mine beliefs. This is the difference. I was arguing that voting for Kamala in that kind of situation, as that type of person, was wrong for their own beliefs, not for my beliefs, which were clearly for Trump. So that's the point I was trying to make, which was very pertinent. And I didn't get much backlash, guys. I'm not saying I got backlash from it. Most of the people agreed with me. I'm not saying otherwise. So that's a very important point I made. So those are the single issue voters. Then we have the emotional voters who vote for candidates because who vote for candidates based on sympathy and based on which one is the most friendly and those sorts of things. And that's also bullshit. You don't do that. I think you should vote for the candidate based on rationalism. Then we have the candidate, the people who vote based on emotionality. I don't remember which one was the third one. Maybe it wasn't emotionality. But those were my problems. And I stated that women are more prone to be one of those 3 types of voters than men, which is true. I think it's true because for the things I said, women in general tend to be less rational than men. So, is voting, in order to come to the conclusion of the question I asked at the beginning of the video, we all need to agree that voting is a rational choice. I happen to believe that voting is a rational choice. What does that mean? It means to vote rationally, and I think it means to vote in accordance to your beliefs and what you think is best for the country. If my beliefs, if I am a person that, after an analysis of the candidates, decides to vote for Kamala, for example, because in my opinion, she's closer, she has got ideals that are closer to mine, and those sorts, and all of those things, it's fine, as I said. You didn't waste your vote. You voted in accordance to your beliefs, which is perfectly fine. We should exercise our right to vote all the times. So that's the point I made. So since men vote more rationally than women, do they vote better? If we are talking from a standpoint of rationalism, it's certain that they vote better. Because if we say that men vote more rationally than women do, and if we acknowledge that rationalism is the most important trait when it comes to choosing who to vote for, then we agree that men vote better than women do. On the other hand, you might try to argue that there needs to be an emotional side too. There is maybe the left, especially the left wing. The left wing will watch this and maybe say, oh, but we are excluding and we are taking away the emotional side. We need to have people voting also from an emotional standpoint, so that we have both the rational standpoint, the logical one, and the irrational and emotional one. While that can make sense, and you can try to argue that, I do believe that voting is a rational choice. I do believe we shouldn't be emotional about voting. We should be very rational. We should be very logical when it comes to voting. We can't vote for somebody because we like them more as a person. It's not important. We need to vote for somebody because we like their agenda more, because we think that person is going to be better for the country than the other guy or girl. I think that's the way it should be. So I do acknowledge that from the standpoint of rationalism, men do vote better than women. That's true. I think it's true. Of course, rationalism is, and if we acknowledge those two things, then we all come to the conclusion that if men voted only, we would have better leaders. I do think that's true. I'll tell you why. For the things we've said, blah, 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 for the things we've said, it's true. Then, the final question, which will lead us to the final answer, is whether having better leaders and excluding women from voting would make the world a better place. And while, yes, it is true that having better leaders would make the world a better place, I still believe, and I need to be extremely professional with this because it's important to be, I still believe that if women didn't vote, the world wouldn't be a better place. It would be a worse place. I'll tell you why. First of all, let's talk about the actual scenario, not the actual scenario, let's talk about the scenario of 2024. Let's imagine that Western countries took away from women the right to vote. Let's imagine we did this. The protests and the rioting and the revolts women would cause and incite, rightfully I would argue, would be very big. So for that reason alone, it wouldn't be a better thing. So that's the first thing. So that's the first reason why I am actually changing. I'm actually flip-flopping on this opinion. I'm flip-flopping, guys. I'm doing something Kamala did loads of times on the campaign trail. Abortion, yes. Abortion, no. Not with abortion, but with immigration. The border should be closed and locked. We should shut down the border. We should actually do more to regulate illegal immigration. Blah, 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 blah. Fracking, yes, no, don't know. Got a doubt, yes, no, maybe so. We saw her flip-flopping on many issues, and I'm doing the same. Because as much as I acknowledge that, yes, voting is a rational choice and rationalism is the most important thing when it comes to voting. Yes, men are more rational than women, so they tend to make better choices in regards to voting. Therefore, they also tend to choose better leaders therefore, they choose better people to be leaders. That's true, I acknowledge of that. But socially, it wouldn't be better for the world. Imagine if and also because voting is something which needs to call everybody. Voting needs to include everybody. It needs to be inclusive, which is a word I hate. It's been propagandized, and the way the far left propaganda machines, CNN, ABC, that load of crap, the way they have used the word inclusive and DEI and this bullshit is deplorable. But we need to be inclusive. We can't just take women out of the equation. That's nonsense. That's medieval stuff. So the point I made there was kinda, it wasn't that great. I mean, the arguments were great, but there are better arguments against the point I made. So the final answer, then I will also talk about voting and other stuff. The final answer is no. The world wouldn't be a better place if women didn't vote. In spite of the fact that if women didn't vote, more rational choices would be made by voters, which I would argue is a better thing, which I would argue would lead to having better world leaders. But at the same time, we're taking half of the population out of the equation, which is a big issue. So that's an important point. So that's the final answer. What should we do in order to make people vote more rationally and more correctly, not based on my beliefs and not based on the right wing's beliefs? No, we should instruct people to vote correctly and in accordance to their own beliefs. Instead of propaganda, instead of using news outlets like CNN, BBC, ABC, and push the propaganda, what we should do is teach people how to vote according to their beliefs in the following way. So, we should tell people the following, especially high school students. It's very difficult to do this, because it's difficult to have people who will be unbiased. You will have professors who are left-wing who are going to tell you, listen, right-wingers are fascists, don't vote for these people. You will have professors who are right-wing who will tell you, left-wingers are communists, socialists, they want to take away your guns, don't do that. So it's difficult, not to have a bias. But families and relatives should teach the younger generation to vote correctly based on their own beliefs. So we should tell, listen, you should look at the candidates and at the options you have on the table. Put your emotions about them aside. That's not something important. You shouldn't care about whether you like a person or not in terms of personality. That's not important. What matters is to choose the person who's better suited to run the country. That's what matters. That's what should be done. So look at the politicians. Look at whether option A is better than option B or option B is better than option A. Go through their plans. You don't need to be a political analyst or of any kind. Just broadly. Go through their plans, go through what they intend to do, and after an analysis, make your choice. Also based on your ideas. Don't vote for a party regardless of the candidate, because that's a problem we have. We have people who will vote for a party even if they put up a chair as the nominee. 70 or 80%, that's 80% of both the Democrats and Republicans would vote for their party even if it were a human against a chair or against a duck. It works in that way. It works in that way. I'm not saying that if you always vote for a party, it's a problem. I'm saying you should look at the two candidates, choose the best one in accordance to your beliefs, and if you funnily enough think that the candidate of the opposite party is better than the candidate of your party, vote for the opposite party. That's the way it should be, in my opinion. That's another problem we have. So that's the way it should work, I think. We should listen. In order to vote correctly and rationally, and in order to vote based on logic, do the following. Look at the options you've got, option A, option B, and go through their plans. See who you think is best and better suited to cover the role of being the president, the prime minister, the mayor, whatever you're electing somebody. Make a choice based on rationalism, based on who you think is better suited to cover that role. That's the way it should be. No single issue voting, no people voting for a candidate because is, funnier. no people voting because of a candidate because of one issue. Also, one issue voting. If you have two candidates, this is an important point, I will make it again. We've got candidate A. You go through their plan. You think he's got better policies on immigration, on foreign policy, on the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine. You think also that he's got better economic policies, and you also think that he can handle justice better. So you think that this candidate is better at everything but one issue. So you would choose this candidate for 6 out of the 7 major issues. And then you would choose the other candidate for 1 out of the 7 major issues. Choose the one, elect the candidate you'd choose in 6 of the 7 issues. Because if you do the opposite, you're doing the single issue voting, which is a disaster. It can't be done in that way. So that's very important too. As we close on this rather interesting video, I think it was an interesting video. I think it was a great one of the best videos I've ever made. Also in terms of speaking, in terms of the way I communicated with you. I wish you the best of Christmases. Merry Christmas Eve. Goodwill to all men. Goodwill to everybody. And yes, the world would be a worse place if women didn't vote. So we should be thankful for the people who fought so hard to give women the right to vote. And as a world-renowned, not yet, but as a misogynist, since I guess 2 or 3 times I've been called that, as a person who has spread misogyny on the internet, which isn't true, but let's just say it, for the sake of the trolling, let's just say it. As a person who's been misogynistic many times in his life, as a person who's done evil things, which isn't true, I too recognize that if women didn't vote, the world wouldn't be a better place. And I think it's a logical conclusion. In spite of the fact I've said rather controversial but true things. So guys, I answered the question. Give me your thoughts. Tell me whether I'm right or wrong. And see you maybe tomorrow with a Christmas video. Merry Christmas Eve. Goodwill to all men, goodwill to everybody. It's been nice. And enjoy.